Hey everyone, and welcome to the Financial Social Work Podcast. We are diving into something pretty interesting today. It might just change how you think about your money.
Right.
We're talking about financial social work. It's becoming more and more popular, and there are good reasons for that.
Mm.
It's not all about the numbers with financial social work. It's about the human side of things, the stuff that traditional financial advice usually misses.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. You know what's so fascinating about financial social work, we'll call it FSW, is that it gets how much our emotions and past experiences can mess with how we handle money. Like, it's not just making a budget, it's about understanding why it can be so hard to stick to it in the first
So
place.
it's like our personal finances come with all this emotional baggage stuff we don't even know we're carrying around. So
Mm.
instead of just saying, save more,
Yeah.
FSW wants to figure out the why behind our money habits.
Exactly. It's kind of like a multidisciplinary approach. You've got the financial advice, but it mixes in this deep understanding of human psychology and behavior.
Okay, I am curious. What does multidisciplinary actually look like in real life?
Okay, so imagine this. You're talking to a financial social worker. They're not just helping you create a budget, right? They're also helping you uncover maybe how your childhood experiences with money are messing with your spending today. Like maybe your parents fought about money all the time, or maybe they kept it all super secret. Those early experiences, they can really shape how we think and act around money for years, even if we don't realize it.
Whoa, I never thought of it like that before. But it makes a lot of sense. We carry those experiences even if it's subconscious.
Oh, absolutely. And a financial social worker, they can help you unpack all that stuff. You can understand the impact and maybe even rewrite those old money scripts that are holding you back.
Like a therapist for your money. Okay, but what about the behavioral side? How does that fit in?
Let's say you're an impulse shopper, right? A financial social worker who knows about behavior techniques, they could help you figure out what triggers those impulse buys. Maybe it's stress or loneliness or even boredom. And then they'd help you figure out healthier ways to deal with that stuff and manage those urges. It's not about depriving yourself, it's more about finding better and longer lasting ways to meet your needs.
So it's more about understanding the why behind what you do and not just the behavior itself.
Yeah.
It seems like this could help a lot of people, not just people in a financial crisis.
You got it. Financial social work, it's for anyone who feels like they could use some help figuring out their finances. It's about empowering people to take control of their money, but also understanding that sometimes there are deeper emotional or psychological things going on that need to be addressed.
You mentioned FSW using different disciplines. Could you give an example of what that looks like in a real-life situation?
Sure, let's say someone's struggling with debt, right? A regular financial advisor, they might just focus on making a debt repayment plan. But a financial social worker, they might dig a little deeper. They might look at why the debt piled up in the first place. Is it emotional spending? A lack of financial knowledge? Maybe even some underlying mental health challenges. By getting to those root causes, they can help that person build healthier money habits and make real change, not just a quick fix.
That's really interesting. It seems like this would be especially helpful for people who've tried the usual budgeting or financial advice, and it just didn't work for them.
Exactly. It's about treating the whole person, not just their bank account. And that's what makes FSW so powerful.
Okay, so we know FSW takes this whole person approach, but what does that actually mean for people? What can someone expect to gain from working with a financial social worker?
Well, for one thing, FSW can help you heal your relationship with money. It can help you move away from feelings of shame or guilt or anxiety around money and move towards feeling empowered and in control.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And it seems like that change in mindset could make things better in other areas of life, too.
Absolutely. When you feel more confident and secure about your finances, it usually means you feel more at peace and have a better sense of well-being overall.
I imagine it could also make it easier to reach your financial goals. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're not fighting those internal battles anymore, you're free to focus on building a brighter financial future.
Right. FSW gives you the tools and knowledge to not just manage money, but to actually make it work for you.
So it's about creating a life where your finances help you and make you feel stable instead of stressing you out. I think that's something we can all get behind.
For sure. And what's really cool is that this approach is becoming more and more available. It's not just one-on-one therapy sessions anymore. It's showing up in schools and workplaces and community organizations and even healthcare settings.
That's fantastic. It sounds like this field is really taking off. But before we go there, I'm curious, who exactly can benefit from this?
That's the great thing about FSW. It's truly for anyone.
You mean it's not just for people who are struggling financially?
Not at all. Of course, it can be a huge help for people facing financial challenges, but it can also be great for anyone who wants to have a better relationship with money and improve their financial well-being overall.
So it's as much about preventing problems as it is about solving them.
Exactly. And there are so many different ways it can be used. Like, imagine a young adult just starting their career. A financial social worker could help them build healthy financial habits right from the beginning, setting them up for success in the long run. Or think about a couple getting ready for retirement. FSW can help them navigate all the emotional and financial stuff that comes with that big life change, making sure they feel confident and prepared for that next chapter.
It sounds like there's a place for FSW at every stage of life.
Absolutely. Whether you're just starting out, in the middle of your career, or planning for the future, FSW can offer valuable support and guidance.
So we've talked about the main ideas behind FSW and how it can be used in different ways. But now I'm really wondering, what are some of the surprising benefits that people have experienced through FSW? The things that maybe aren't so obvious.
That's a really good question. One thing that often surprises people is how much of an impact FSW can have on their relationships.
Relationships. That's interesting. How so?
Well, think about it. Money is often a big cause of stress and fights in relationships. When people start to heal their own relationship with money, it can lead to better communication, more empathy, and a stronger sense of partnership.
Makes sense. It's like by dealing with the money tension, you're making space for more positive interactions and a deeper connection.
Exactly. And this isn't just for romantic relationships either. FSW can also have a positive impact on families, friendships, even professional relationships.
Wow, it sounds like FSW can reach out and affect so many parts of our lives.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see why this field is getting so much attention.
It's really fascinating to see, and what's even more exciting is that it's constantly changing and growing. There's so much new research coming out, and a whole community of practitioners who are passionate about sharing their knowledge and experience.
I bet. Now, we mentioned earlier that FSW is becoming more accessible. You talked about schools and workplaces. But how does someone actually find a good financial social worker? Is there a certain certification to look for?
That's a great question, and a really important one, because like with any new field, there can be differences in qualifications and expertise, but there are definitely some key things to look for.
Okay, so what should listeners keep in mind when looking for a financial social worker?
Yeah.
What are the signs of someone who is qualified and experienced?
Well, first and foremost, you want to find someone who knows their stuff both in social work and finance. Ideally, they should have a degree in social work plus extra training or certifications in personal finance. This way, they understand the whole picture, the psychosocial and financial aspects of well-being.
That makes sense. You want someone who can speak both languages, so to speak.
Exactly. You want someone who gets your financial struggles, but can also dig into those underlying emotional and behavioral patterns that might be causing them.
So a mix of expertise and empathy. What else is important?
Experience matters too. Look for someone who's actually helped people and families reach their financial goals. Reading testimonials or case studies can give you an idea of how they work and the results they've gotten for others.
That's a good tip. It's always helpful to see real-life examples of how someone has helped people in similar situations.
Definitely. And finally, don't underestimate the importance of feeling comfortable with them. You want to work with someone you trust, who you feel really understands your needs and goals.
It's all about finding the right fit, isn't it?
It really is. A good relationship with your financial social worker, like any kind of counseling, is super important.
That's a good reminder. So to recap, when searching for a financial social worker, look for someone with a strong background in social work and finance, real-world experience, and a personality that you connect with. Sounds like a good place to start.
It is. And as the field keeps growing, you'll probably see more and more resources to help people connect with qualified financial social workers in their area.
That's great news. It shows how important this approach is becoming. Now, I know a lot of people are interested in becoming a financial social worker themselves. We've been getting a lot of questions from listeners who want to learn more about this field and how to make it their career. So for those who are interested in joining this growing movement, what advice would you give them? What are some of the first steps they could take?
That's a fantastic question. It's wonderful to see so many people interested in this. If someone is really passionate about helping others achieve financial well-being, and they're drawn to the holistic approach of FSW, there are definitely some paths they can explore.
Okay, let's break it down. What would be the first step for someone thinking about a career in financial social work?
The most common way is to get a master's degree in social work and MSW.
So a solid base in social work is key.
Absolutely. And while they're in their MSW program, they can start focusing on areas related to financial well-being.
I guess there are specific courses or electives that focus on financial social work, right?
Yes, a lot of MSW programs now offer courses on things like financial counseling, economic justice, and working with people experiencing poverty. These courses really dive into the social, economic, and policy issues that affect people's financial well-being.
So it's not just about personal finance. It's about understanding the bigger systems that influence people's financial health.
Exactly. And it's about learning how to advocate for changes in those systems that promote financial equity and justice.
That's powerful stuff. So once they have their MSW, what's next?
After that, they can look for more training and certifications specifically in financial social work.
Are there particular certifications that are recognized in the field?
Yes, there are. Organizations like the Center for Financial Social Work offer specialized training programs and certifications that go deep into the theory, practice, and ethics of FSW.
So it's about taking what they learned in their social work program and becoming an expert in the specifics of financial social work.
Exactly. These programs typically cover things like financial assessment, helping people with budgeting and debt, financial coaching, and the ethical considerations when working with clients about money.
So it's a comprehensive approach that prepares people to effectively serve clients in this unique area.
Exactly. And those certifications also show that they're committed to professional development and upholding the highest ethical standards in the field.
That's really important, especially when dealing with something as sensitive and personal as finances. So a strong educational foundation, specialized training, and a commitment to ethical practice. Sounds like a winning combination.
It definitely is. And as the need for financial social workers keeps growing, those who invest in their professional development will be in a great position to make a real difference in the lives of individuals, families, and communities.
That's inspiring. It really highlights the importance of professionalization in this field. Now, we've talked a lot about the educational path, but what about the personal qualities that make someone a good fit for a career in financial social work? What traits or characteristics tend to lead to success in this field?
That's a great question. And it's an important one because just like any helping profession, certain personal qualities can really make a difference in how effective and impactful someone is.
Okay, so what are some of those key qualities?
Well, first and foremost, you've got to have a genuine passion for helping others. Financial social workers often work with people who are going through tough times, so it's crucial to have a lot of empathy and a real desire to make their lives better.
It's more than just a job. It's a calling.
Exactly. And along with empathy, you need to be able to communicate well. Financial social work involves a lot of listening, explaining things clearly, and building trust with clients.
So it's about creating a space where people feel safe and supported to share their financial worries and hopes.
Absolutely. And because finances can be such a touchy subject, it's also important to have good boundaries and to be non-judgmental.
That's key. Clients need to feel like they can be open and honest without feeling ashamed or criticized.
For sure. And lastly, a good sense of humor can go a long way. Finances can be stressful, so being able to lighten things up a bit can help clients feel more comfortable and create a more positive and productive atmosphere.
It sounds like finding that balance between empathy, professionalism, and warmth.
You got it. And for those who have those qualities and are drawn to the mission of financial social work, it can be a tremendously fulfilling and rewarding career.
I can imagine. Now, we've talked a lot about the core ideas of FSW, the benefits, and even what it takes to become a financial social worker. But I'm curious, what are some of the things people get wrong about this field? What are some of the common misconceptions about financial social work?
That's a great question, and it's important to talk about them because there are definitely some myths and misunderstandings about FSW floating around.
Okay, let's bust some myths. What's the first one that comes to mind?
One of the biggest misconceptions is that FSW is only for people who are poor or in a financial crisis.
We touched on that earlier. It's about so much more than just crisis intervention.
Exactly. While FSW can be incredibly helpful for people who are struggling financially, it's also a valuable resource for anyone who wants to have a healthier relationship with money, no matter their income or financial situation.
So it's about prevention, empowerment, and overall financial well-being for everyone.
Absolutely. And another misconception is that FSW is just about teaching people how to budget or manage their money.
So it's not just a glorified budgeting class.
Not at all. While budgeting is definitely a part of FSW, it's just one piece of the puzzle. The real power of FSW comes from its holistic approach, which recognizes that our emotions, past experiences, and financial behaviors are all connected.
So it's about getting to the root of the problem, not just treating the symptoms.
Precisely. And another myth I hear a lot is that financial social workers are just soft therapists who don't really get finance.
It seems pretty narrow-minded.
It is. Qualified financial social workers understand both personal finance and social work principles. They're trained to provide emotional support and practical financial guidance.
So they can handle both the emotional and practical sides of financial well-being.
Exactly. They can help you explore your money mindset, overcome any emotional blocks, and give you the knowledge and skills to make smart financial decisions.
Sounds like a powerful combination.
It really is. And by clearing up these misconceptions, we can get more people talking about financial well-being and encourage them to seek out the help and guidance that FSW can offer.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've covered a lot in this first part of our deep dive into financial social work. We've explored the core principles, the benefits, what it takes to become a financial social worker, and even debunked some common myths.
It's been a great conversation.
It has. And for our listeners, I'm curious, what has stood out to you the most? What part of FSW has sparked your interest or made you want to know more? We'll be digging deeper into specific aspects of this field in the next part of our series, so make sure to join us for that.
You know, what's really sticking with me is how FSW can help people not just manage their money, but actually use it to reach their goals and dreams. It's about making your money match your values.
Yeah, it's like you're taking back control, right? Instead of feeling like money is running your life, you're the one in charge, steering it toward what really matters to you.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be these huge life-changing goals either. It could be as simple as being able to go out for a nice dinner without feeling guilty or stressed, or finally taking that vacation you've been putting off because of money worries.
It's those little everyday wins that can make a big difference.
Yeah.
It's about feeling free and like anything is possible, instead of just feeling limited and stuck.
Absolutely. And speaking of possibilities, one of the things I'm most excited about with FSW is how it can be used to address those big systemic problems like financial inequality and injustice.
Yeah, that's a huge topic. How does FSW fit into those bigger conversations about social and economic justice?
Well, FSW recognizes that being financially well isn't just a personal responsibility. It's also really affected by social, economic, and political things, like whether people have access to education, affordable housing, and fair lending practices. All that plays a role.
So it's about seeing the whole picture, the systems that can either help or hurt people's financial well-being.
Exactly. And by understanding those systems, financial social workers can advocate for policies and programs that promote financial equity and justice for everyone.
So it's like a two-pronged approach, helping individuals and also working to make the financial system fairer for everybody.
That's really powerful. Now, we've talked a lot about the benefits of FSW and all the different ways it can be used. But I'm curious, are there any challenges or limitations to this approach? Are there situations where FSW might not be the best solution?
That's a really good question, and it's important to remember that FSW, like anything, has its limitations. For example, while FSW can be incredibly helpful for dealing with the emotional and behavioral side of money, it's not meant to replace traditional financial advice.
So if someone needs specific investment strategies or complex financial planning, they might still need to talk to a financial advisor.
Right, and sometimes there might be mental health issues that need a therapist or a psychiatrist.
So it's about knowing when you need additional help or more specialized expertise. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing. Exactly. And it's also important to remember that FSW is still relatively new. While it's becoming more popular, finding qualified practitioners can be tough depending on where you live and what resources are available.
That makes sense. It's a growing field, but there's still work to do in terms of making it more accessible and raising awareness.
For sure. But the good news is that there's a lot of momentum, and more resources are popping up to connect people with qualified financial social workers.
That's encouraging. It shows that people are starting to recognize the importance of this approach. Now, earlier we were talking about how FSW tackles systemic issues like financial inequality. I'd love to hear more about that. Could you give us a specific example of how FSW is being used to promote financial justice and equity?
Definitely. One great example is the work being done to address the racial wealth gap. You know, systemic racism has led to big differences in how much wealth white households of color have been able to build.
Yes, that's a massive issue we can't ignore. So how is FSW being used to tackle this?
Well, financial social workers are working in communities of color to provide financial education, counseling, and advocacy that is sensitive to their cultures. They're helping people overcome things that prevent them from fully participating in the financial system, like not having access to banks or being targeted by predatory lenders.
So it's about meeting people where they are and understanding the unique struggles they face because of these systemic barriers.
Exactly. And they're also working to change the policies and practices that keep these inequalities going. For instance, they might push for affordable housing policies, fair lending rules, or more financial literacy programs in communities that haven't had access to them.
It's about giving people the power to make their own financial decisions, while also working to make the system fairer for everyone.
Absolutely. And there are so many other examples of how FSW is being used to fight for financial justice. They're working with people who were formerly incarcerated to help them get back into the workforce and rebuild their finances. They're helping immigrants and refugees navigate the complicated financial world of a new country. And they're fighting for policies that support working families, like paid family leave and affordable childcare.
Wow, it sounds like FSW has so many different facets and the potential to make a real difference for individuals and for society as a whole.
It really does. And what's exciting is that it's constantly evolving and finding new and creative ways to promote financial well-being for everyone.
It's truly inspiring. Now, we've talked about how FSW is a relatively new field, but I'm curious, what are some of the key moments or turning points that have shaped how FSW has developed? How did this approach even come about?
That's a great question. And the history of FSW is really interesting. It comes from the social work profession's long commitment to social and economic justice. But it really started to pick up speed in the late 20th century as social workers began to see just how much financial stress was affecting individuals, families, and communities.
So it was this realization that financial well-being is completely tied to overall well-being.
Exactly. And as social workers started working more closely with people facing financial challenges, they realized that the traditional financial advice just wasn't cutting it.
It was missing that human touch, that understanding of the emotional and psychological stuff going on.
You got it. And they also realized that financial problems were often just a symptom of bigger systemic problems, like poverty, discrimination, and a lack of resources.
So it was about tackling both the individual and the systemic factors that lead to financial hardship.
Absolutely. And as this understanding grew, social workers started building up their knowledge and skills in financial counseling, debt management, and advocacy.
It was like a natural progression for the social work profession.
Yeah.
Expanding to meet the growing needs of the people they were serving.
Exactly. And in the early 2000s, the field really started to come together around the term financial social work, which helped to give it a clear identity and make it more recognized as a real area of practice.
So it went from being this growing movement to becoming a recognized field of expertise.
Precisely. And from there, the field has just kept growing and changing, with more and more social workers making financial well-being a part of their work.
It's amazing to see how far it's come.
Yeah.
Okay, now I know we've talked about the past and present of FSW, but I'm curious, what do you think the future holds for this field? Where do you see FSW going in the next 5 to 10 years?
Ooh, that's a great question. I'm really optimistic about the future of FSW. I think we're going to see more and more demand for qualified financial social workers as people realize just how important a holistic approach to financial well-being is.
So more awareness and acceptance of this approach.
Absolutely. And with that demand, I think we'll see more universities and colleges offering specific programs and degrees in FSW.
That would be awesome. It would really help to make the field even more professional and ensure that people going into this work have the knowledge and skills they need to really help their clients.
Exactly. And I also think we'll see FSW becoming more integrated into regular healthcare settings.
That's interesting. Why do you think that?
Well, there's growing evidence that financial stress can have a big impact on both physical and mental health. And as healthcare focuses more on prevention and treating the whole person, I think FSW will become even more important.
So it's about recognizing that financial well-being and overall health are connected.
Exactly. Imagine if every doctor's office had a financial social worker on staff ready to help patients deal with any financial stress that might be affecting their health.
That'd be amazing. It shows how FSW could become a really important part of our healthcare system.
Absolutely. And I also think we'll see more technology being used to provide FSW services.
Oh, how so?
Well, things like telehealth platforms and mobile apps are already being used to offer financial counseling and education remotely. And as these technologies keep getting better, they'll make FSW services more accessible and affordable for people everywhere, no matter where they live.
So it's about breaking down those geographical barriers and reaching people who might not have access to these services otherwise.
Exactly. And finally, I think we'll see more research being done to see how effective FSW interventions are.
That's so important. Data and evidence are key to showing how well any approach works.
Absolutely. And as more research comes out, it will help to prove the value of FSW and inform best practices in the field.
So a bright future for FSW with continued growth, integration, and innovation. It's so exciting to think about all the possibilities.
I agree. And it's truly an honor to be a part of this movement that's changing how we think about and approach financial well-being.
Well said. I think we've covered a ton of ground in the second part of our deep dive. We explored the systemic side of FSW, the challenges and limitations, the history of the field, and even got a glimpse into its future.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It really has. And for our listeners, we want to hear from you. What resonated with you the most? What new insights have you gained about FSW? We'll be wrapping up our deep dive in the final part of this series, where we'll share some practical tips and resources for those who want to learn more about FSW or even think about it as a career path. So stay tuned. All right, welcome back to the last part of our deep dive into financial social work. Wow, we've covered a lot of the main ideas, the benefits, how FSW can affect people, and even society as a whole.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? And I think one thing that's become clear is that FSW is more than just some techniques or strategies. It's a whole philosophy, a way of thinking about money and how it fits into our lives.
You're so right. It's about realizing that money is connected to our emotions, values, relationships, and even our sense of who we are.
Exactly. And by getting to those deeper levels, FSW helps people build a healthier, more fulfilling relationship with money, which can lead to more financial well-being and just feeling better about life in general.
I know a lot of our listeners are probably thinking, this all sounds great, but where do I even start? So for those who are ready to take that first step towards a healthier financial life, what advice would you give them? Like, what are some practical things they can do?
That's a great question. And the good news is there are a lot of simple but powerful things you can do to start feeling better about your relationship with money.
Okay, let's hear those practical tips. What's the first step you'd recommend?
Well, one of the most important things is to just become more aware of your thoughts and feelings about money.
So paying attention to that voice in your head, the stories we tell ourselves about money.
Exactly. Start noticing those automatic thoughts that pop up when you're dealing with finances. Are they mostly positive or negative? Do you usually feel anxious, stressed, or even ashamed when it comes to money?
It's like shining a light on those hidden beliefs that might be driving how we act with money.
Precisely. And once you're aware of those thoughts and feelings, you can start to question them and see if there's another way to look at things.
So instead of saying, I'm terrible with money, you might say, I'm learning and growing in my financial journey.
Exactly. It's about moving away from a mindset of scarcity and limitations and towards one of abundance and possibilities.
That's a big shift.
Yeah.
What other practical steps can people take?
Another great tip is to start tracking your spending.
Uh-oh, the dreaded budget. But I know it's important.
It really is. And it doesn't have to be a complicated thing. There are tons of apps and tools that make it super easy to track your expenses. The main thing is to just become more mindful of where your money is going.
So it's about getting a clear picture and taking control of your finances.
Right. And once you see your spending habits clearly, you can start to figure out where you might want to make some changes.
Like maybe cutting back on impulse buys or figuring out how to save on your monthly bills.
Exactly. Even small changes can make a big difference over time.
Those small wins can really add up. What about setting financial goals? Would you recommend that?
Absolutely. Having clear financial goals gives you a sense of purpose and motivation.
It's like having a map for your financial journey.
Exactly. And your goals can be anything that's meaningful to you, whether it's saving for a house, paying off debt, or just building up your emergency fund.
So it's about making your finances work towards the things you care about and want to achieve.
That's it. And don't be afraid to break down your goals into smaller, more manageable steps. That can make it feel less overwhelming and easier to actually accomplish them.
It's about taking it one step at a time and celebrating those small victories along the way.
For sure. And finally, don't forget to ask for help when you need it.
Ah, yes. Reaching out to people who can guide and support you.
Exactly. Talk to friends or family members you trust about your financial goals. Look for a support group or online community focused on financial wellness. And if you feel like you need more specialized help, don't be afraid to reach out to a qualified financial social worker.
It's about remembering that you don't have to do this alone. There are people and resources out there to help you along the way.
Right. And keep in mind that building a healthy relationship with money is a journey. There will be good times and tough times, challenges and successes. But by taking a holistic approach and asking for help when you need it, you can face those challenges with more strength and build a financial future that truly reflects your values and supports your well-being.
That's such an empowering message. And I think it really captures the heart of what financial social work is all about. Now, before we finish up this last part of our deep dive, let's go back to something you mentioned earlier, finding a qualified financial social worker. What resources are out there for listeners who want to connect with a practitioner in their area?
Great question. There are a few really good resources out there. A good place to start is the National Association of Social Workers, or NASW website. They have a directory of social workers by specialty, including those who focus on financial well-being.
So listeners can search for a financial social worker in their state or even their town.
Exactly. Another great resource is the Center for Financial Social Work. They have a ton of info on their website, including a list of certified financial social workers who've completed their specialized training program.
So listeners can be sure they're connecting with people who meet high standards of education and experience.
Exactly. And a lot of universities and colleges that have social work programs also have centers or clinics that offer financial counseling and support.
So contacting local universities could be another good option.
Definitely. And don't underestimate word of mouth. Ask your friends, family, even your therapist or doctor if they know of any good financial social workers in your area.
You know, it's amazing how often those personal connections lead us to the right resources.
It really is. And remember, finding the right financial social worker is kind of like finding any other healthcare provider. Do your research, ask questions, and trust your gut.
It's all about finding that person you feel comfortable with and who you believe can really support you on your financial journey.
That's right. And once you find that right fit, it can be a truly rewarding and transformative experience.
Well, I think we've covered it all. We've explored the principles of FSW, the benefits, the challenges, the history, the future, and even gave some practical tips and resources for our listeners.
It's been a really comprehensive deep dive.
It has. And I hope our listeners feel empowered and inspired to take that next step toward a healthier, more fulfilling relationship with money. Whether that's just becoming more aware of your financial thoughts and feelings or seeking out professional support, remember, you have the power to create a financial life that truly works for you. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of financial social work. We hope you found it insightful, empowering, and maybe even a little bit life-changing.